Date: Wednesday, December 21, 1988. Location: London Heathrow Airport. On this day, a Pan Am Boeing 747-121 was preparing for its flight from London to New York's John F. Kennedy Airport. Pan Am, or Pan American World Airways, was one of the biggest airlines of the 20th century. Pan Am was the leading and largest international carrier for the United States, and the unofficial flag carrier, from 1927 until its collapse on December 4, 1991. It was founded in 1927, operating scheduled flights between Key West, Florida, and Havana, Cuba. There were 243 passengers and 16 crew members on board. Captain James Bruce McQuarrie, 55 years old, was an experienced pilot with nearly 11,000 flight hours, more than 4,000 of which were on Boeing 747 aircraft. First Officer Raymond Ronald Wagner, 52, had about 5,500 flight hours on the 747 and a total of nearly 12,000 hours. Lastly, Flight Engineer Jerry Don Averitt, 46, had more than 8,000 flight hours and joined Pan Am through the 1980 merger with National Airlines. When a plane flies from London to America, it first has to head north, then make a straight path over Scotland towards the US. This route is one of 6 pre-planned routes for flights leaving Heathrow. Lockerbie is just one of the many towns the plane would pass over. But sadly, it would turn out to be the unluckiest. You'll understand why we say that soon enough. The people of Lockerbie, a quiet town in Scotland, were completely unaware that they lived under a busy flight path. That evening, while many residents were sitting down for dinner, they heard a strange noise. At first, it sounded like wind, but it quickly grew louder, much louder. Then, they started to see dark objects falling from the sky. No one could figure out what was happening as debris began raining down all over the town. And then, out of nowhere, a giant fireball came crashing down. The plane had turned into a massive fireball and hit the town with an explosive force. The blast was so powerful that residents tried to call for help, but the explosion had knocked out the phone lines. Thick smoke covered the town. Streets, houses, and gardens were on fire everywhere. As daylight revealed the full extent of the tragedy, it became clear that several homes had been destroyed. Part of the town was now a massive wreck, with debris from both the plane and burning houses. For this quiet and peaceful town, it was an incredibly shocking and heartbreaking day. People were desperately searching the wreckage for their loved ones and for the passengers on the plane. It was a truly devastating scene. The town was in chaos. There were people everywhere, and massive craters marked the spots where parts of the plane had crashed. Over 1,000 police officers and investigators had spread out across the town, collecting debris from every corner. Just 9 days before Christmas, this tragedy completely shattered the holiday spirit. But why had this plane crashed? When you find out the reason, it will truly break your heart. The plane's wreckage was scattered across a 2,000 square kilometer area, meaning it started breaking apart in the air, spreading debris over a vast distance. Like in any crash, investigators focused on finding the black box, the key piece that could explain what went wrong. The cockpit, which had detached from the rest of the plane, was found about 4 kilometers outside the town. It looked as if it had been cut off from the rest of the aircraft. When investigators examined the cockpit, they found the plane was on autopilot, and the oxygen masks were still in their compartments. There were no signs of malfunctions or anything unusual that could have caused the crash. This particular aircraft was the 15th Boeing 747 ever built. Investigators wondered if the plane's age might have played a role, but when they checked the maintenance records, nothing significant showed up. At this point, investigators began to focus on their worst fear, a terrorist attack. Several Iranian and Palestinian groups claimed responsibility for the bombing. 6 months earlier, the US Navy had shot down an Iranian passenger plane, killing 290 people, and investigators thought this might be an act of revenge. Soon, they found evidence suggesting a bomb had gone off. Scotland's countryside was turning into one of the largest crime scenes in the world. Later, chemical traces commonly used in bombs were discovered. On December 26, after confirming their findings, investigators held a press conference to announce that the crash was caused by a terrorist attack. The race was now on to find those responsible and bring them to justice. This was shaping up to be one of the most serious crimes in aviation history. Reassembling the plane piece by piece, like a giant puzzle, investigators concluded the explosion had occurred in the cargo hold. The bomb had been hidden inside a suitcase. As they dug deeper, they discovered an electronic component smaller than the tip of a finger. Upon closer examination, it turned out to be part of a radio. This meant the bomb had been concealed inside a cassette player. But who had carried out this attack? The world was desperate for answers. Further investigation revealed the suitcase was a Samsonite, a model produced in limited numbers and sold mainly in the Middle East. A year after the crash, investigators found part of a circuit board, about half the size of a fingertip. When they compared it to bomb components previously seized, they discovered it had been connected to 2 Libyan men. The pressure to catch these terrorists was mounting. The company that manufactured the bomb's timer confirmed that it had sold the devices to Libyan individuals, and other clues pointed directly to Libya. Finally, in 1999, the bomber was caught. Abdelbasset al-Megrahi, a Libyan intelligence officer, was arrested and found guilty. In 2001, Scottish judges sentenced him to life imprisonment for his role in the deaths of so many people. 2 years later, the Libyan government officially took responsibility for the attack and paid $2.7 billion in compensation to the victims' families. As for Pan Am Airlines, things took a turn for the worse. The terrorist had never boarded the plane, but if proper procedures had been followed, like matching luggage to passengers, the bomb could have been detected. After the court ruling, Pan Am declared bankruptcy, marking the end of an era.